Yes, and we're back, Charles. It's the Solomon Project. Where's not how much you make, it's how much you keep. That counts. I'm your host, Richard Burns. We're back at it again. We are cutting through Indianapolis, Indiana on I-70. Enjoying this beautiful weather. It's 77 degrees out here right now. Super comfortable. Don't really need the AC. Definitely don't need the heater on. You could just open the windows and let that fresh air flow through. Hopefully it's fresh air, because let me tell you right now, I just went across some farmland and it smelled like straight up cow booty. Yeah. They laid down that manure, and judging by how powerful it smelled, they laid it down thick. Butter. Some people might say that Richard Burns is talking shit right now, but I'll tell you, it's necessary for right now, because these farmers planted their seeds and they want some of that fertilizer on there. And again, judging by the smell, it's a nice thick layer of pure manure. Yeah. Cow doo-doo. There you go. I hope that farmer ain't planting soy, because them soybeans, they may not sell because of the tariffs on the Chinese, and the Chinese are putting some retaliatory tariffs. Yeah. They said, you're gonna tariff us for this, that, and the third. Well, we're gonna tariff you right back. I'll tell you one country that's probably benefiting from this exchange of increased tariffs on one another between the US and China especially, and that's Argentina. I was listening to some investors talk about how the Argentine economy was turning around, and they were giving props to President Milei for making that happen. And the way he's going about it is by making massive cuts on his government. Massive cuts. Sound familiar? Yeah, it should. That's the suggestion that Elon Musk is giving Donald Trump, and Donald Trump is rolling with it. However, federal judge said, listen, the cuts that you suggested that wound up getting a bunch of federal employees fired, those probationary employees, and getting them fired, that was done illegally. So cease and desist and rehire them. Yeah. The judgment came down, I think today, if I'm not mistaken. Or I could be mistaken, and the judgment came down yesterday. But it came down. It came down. So Trump has been ordered to let his agencies know that they have to rehire them folk. Well, but going back to the Argentinians, Milei was doing a lot of chopping himself of his own government, downsizing it big time. And now you got China with the retaliatory tariffs, but going one step beyond and saying, you know, we're just not, never mind putting tariffs on U.S. products, we're not even going to buy those products from the U.S. Like soy, like pork products, for example. Yeah, we're not going to even buy that stuff from the U.S. So if you're a U.S. farmer and you were relying on the trade between China and the U.S. with your pigs or with your soybeans, and there are a lot of other farming commodities that China's deciding not to purchase. That means a bunch of U.S. farmers are going to be SOL. Yes. They're going to be in very bad shape. There was somebody from Nebraska, a lady, a farmer, that was talking about how the state of Nebraska was going to go bankrupt as a result of this tariff war. Well, can't really feel bad for the farmers out in Nebraska. I mean, they did vote for this, so I imagine they'll be okay, because I guess they must have done the math, because it ain't the first time it happened. This happened back in, 2018? Fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice? Is that how it goes? Listen. No, I said it backwards, yeah. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Yeah. That's the correct way. Well, shame on you farmers out there that went through it in 2018 and chose to do it again. So, sorry for you. No sympathy, though. No sympathy. Because of all this stuff going on with the trade wars and stuff, the CPI came out, right? The consumer index, and the PPI came out too. Consumer price index and the producer price index came out the day after. Now, the consumer price index doesn't include food and one other thing that's very important toward the working class and the middle class, but it's not included in the CPI, which happens to be a huge chunk of what people have to pay that impact working class, middle class the most. It's not included in the CPI, so it's kind of weird. If you ever see the CPI for the first time and you from the hood, you're gonna scratch your head and say, "Wait a minute. If you're gonna try to figure out how the economy's doing, wouldn't you include that?" I mean, well, the producer price index is more inclusive. The results were kind of mixed. Not mixed for the food prices, though. There's inflation. There's inflation for food and rents and mortgages too. I don't remember if mortgages were included in that, but Just so that you know, just so that you're aware. Mortgage rates are up. They go up regardless. If you never bought a home before, that's one of the things you really have to be ready for. Because when you buy your house, your mortgage is going to be one amount, and then months later, years later, it gets jacked up. Every year, it probably goes up every year. Because in your payment, because you don't just pay for the actual loan that you got for the home. No. When you're making a payment, there are other things included in your payment. It's called escrow. So your property taxes, your homeowner's insurance, they're included in the escrow, and they both go up. Definitely the property taxes every year, because the city makes an assessment. And guess what? If property values have been going out where you have your house, guess what else goes up? That's right, your property taxes. So don't be surprised, okay? If you never bought a home, prepare yourself for that. You got to make sure that you don't buy your house at an unnecessarily higher price than what it should be, or definitely don't buy out of your range. And in order for you to understand what your range is, well, you got to do the math, and you got to be honest with yourself. Yeah, you might like that house a whole lot, but if it's out of your range, don't lie to yourself and claim that, maybe a little overtime here, overtime there, I'll be alright. No, you're not going to be alright. How many of these people that have federal jobs that had lost it up until now, up until this judgment, were not I? We're not feeling very secure. Look at this traffic, y'all. Sorry to distract you, but here it is. Indianapolis, Indiana. But going back to what we were talking about, CPI, PPI, that stuff came out. Some people are happy that perhaps there won't be an increase on interest rates, which impacts businesses, impacts everybody who has a loan or wants to get a loan for something or wants to get a mortgage. It impacts. Now, the narrative is that Trump is making an outstanding effort to lower interest rates. Some people are applauding that, but there's something I need you to understand about that. Lower interest rates. Well, the Fed, my homeboy, Jerome is not going to just lower interest rates just like that. There are way too many things he has to take into consideration before he lowers or raises interest rates, which impact all of us. But the idea that he's wanting to do that could be a signal as to how the economy as a whole is doing here in the United States. So while some people are all happy and applauding when interest rates go down, There's a flip side to that I don't hear too many people, unless they're economists or institutional investors of some kind. Those are the only ones I hear expressing some concern. Yes, concern. Like, wait a minute, interest rates going down? Let me explain. Let me explain a little something about the lowering of interest rates. I want to remind you, this is a consumer-based economy. Consumption is very important. 70% of our economy is dependent upon consumption. So money has to circulate. They want people to buy. When I say they, I'm referring to the business community needing for the citizens to buy, and for my homeboy Jerome Powell to make sure that the economy is healthy. Money has to circulate. People have to buy. There's got to be a lot of buying and selling going on here. What happens when a bunch of people lose their jobs? Like, a bunch of people have been losing their jobs. What happens when a bunch of people start losing their jobs? Well, they hold on to their cash more. They don't go buying those trinkets and all that extra stuff. They start focusing more on their obligations, such as rent, mortgage, car payments, car insurance, homeowners insurance, food, electricity, internet. They got to make sure that they got their money for all that first, before they go to the movies, before they go to a restaurant once a week, twice a week, before they go to an amusement park. They got to factor their obligations first. They got to take care of that's number one priority. So if you don't have that extra cha-ching, you're going to scale back on spending. Now, two entrepreneurs that I communicate with, that I'm subscribed to, the professor, whose channel is Tower Helms, and the All Bomb Lady. Now, they produce high quality goods. High quality goods. They sell their goods as cheap as they possibly can, but it's a business and they got to make a profit. So they're not the cheapest. And if they're going to stay in business, they can't be the cheapest. But the products that they sell aren't necessarily something that, well, for one at least, it might be a part of that list of priorities. But even though it's part of that list of priorities, it doesn't mean that the people can't scale back and get a cheaper version of less quality, of much less quality, in order to make it through the end of the month. So their businesses can get impacted by the fact that people don't have that extra cash, also known as discretionary money. So with the lowering of discretionary spending, those two entrepreneurs can get impacted. because of the fact that so many people are unemployed and don't have that excess cash. So then, if there's no excess cash circulating like that, maybe the Oil Bomb Lady and Tower of Helms might think about letting my homeboy know, Jerome, that maybe he should lower interest rates. So then, what is that pointing to exactly? If it's such a good thing, what is that pointing to for the professor and for the Oil Bomb Lady? It's pointing to the fact that less people are willing to spend. So if they lower the interest rate, that will encourage people to go spend, because with the lower interest rates, some of their obligations will be a little lower, and maybe they have that little extra cha-ching to go pay Tower Helms and the Oil Bomb Lady a visit and purchase the higher quality, better quality goods that they have to offer. So it's not necessarily a good sign when interest rates are being lowered. It might mean that the economy is not doing quite as good, and the Fed has decided to ease up just enough so that there could be more spending out there. So the economy is not doing so great. They need some more cha-ching floating out there. Lucas Oil Stadium, y'all, is another distraction. Yeah, Lucas Oil Stadium. I think that's where the Colts play. Indianapolis Colts, the football team. Yeah, American football, because if you're out in Europe or some other parts of the world, or South America, Central America, everywhere else in the world except the U.S., you say football, they're thinking it's what we call soccer. Yeah. Indianapolis. Yeah. So, there you have it, y'alls. This trade war is creating chaos. And that's really, that's the real harm right now. There are two things going on with this chaos. Number one is the uncertainty that it creates. And as a result, corporations are holding back. They're holding back on where to deploy their money. They're holding back on hiring. And it's also creating a shift in relationships. Plan B for these corporations here in the United States are starting to become, well, no, not here in the United States. Plan B in other parts of the world are starting to become Plan A. In other words, whatever relationship that these corporations have in other parts of the world with the United States, they're starting to see that they really need to focus on Plan B. Just like what China's doing with Argentina and Brazil. They're going to put Plan B into effect. Who's going to lose out? Those U.S. farmers. They got bailed out in 2018. I don't know if y'all remember that. I don't know. I don't even know if y'all knew that. Yeah, the federal government came to their rescue, paid them off. And even with that, a bunch of farmers lost their farms. Farms that have been handed down through generations. Some of them cried. Some of them unalived themselves. And it's happening all over again. But you know who's gonna benefit? Oh, JD Vance is gonna benefit. Yeah, Vice President JD Vance. He's a part of this corporation that's buying up all this cheap land from the farmers who are desperate to sell their farms off. Yeah. So, what would you call that? Is there an incentive to make sure that these farmers lose their farms? I would think about that. But I'm gonna let you go. I'm gonna let you marinate with that one. I'm gonna let you marinate with that one. So y'all can stay fresh and keep it profitable. Peace.
Arabam Dacia, seviyorum çift kalem aça. Göremedi kimseden fayda. İşler